Hello, beautiful people. How are all of you doing today? I'm not doing well, chat. I'm still fucking molding at skirk, okay? I'm really hoping the leaks are fake, dude. Dude, oh my god. I fucking swear to god, if this game takes the goddamn Star Rail direction, alright, I'm gonna get pissed off. Her multipliers aren't even out. They don't need to be out for me to be angry. Because there's two possibilities. Either her multipliers are good, and she's a meta character who's completely worthless without his Escaffier, or her multipliers are bad, and her design is still ass. Hello. Wait. Let me move the cam. Let me move the chat. Chat, say hi to yourself. I'm actually proud of you guys for resisting the urge to hardo when chat was zoomed in. I'm proud of you. Well done. Get a whoa instead, true. That you can. Chat, it's double artifacts thing again. Let's go! We're pogging. It's time to get some double artifacts. Plus 3 artifacts. Yep. Double the garbage? Don't say that. You're gonna manifest it. Those are the sort of thoughts you should keep to yourself.
Are we going on a
It's 7 TV emote requests, paid Joker? No. No. Oh. One man's trash is another man's Zajef piece. Fuck you, man. Fuck you. This is a plunge Nivinette piece if I've ever seen one, dude. Holy. That's not what I wanted to do. Fine. I don't know why I did that. That was wrong. Oh, pre-locked. Oh, double crit, 4-liner. Pause. Pause. Wait, my Chevy isn't on Fab right now. I took her off of Fab when I gave someone else the Fab. Let me re-gear her. I gave it to Candace when I was playing Milani. Do you know her weapon type? I don't think we have it confirmed, but I'm pretty sure she is sword. Oh, another pre-lock? Good sign. Pausing. Okay, double crit. I don't know if it's worth leveling if it's a 3-liner that doesn't have a good 4th stat, or a good 3rd stat though. I get it to 4 at least. But if it doesn't roll good on 4, it might not be worth leveling past that. Yeah. Because what I have... Right? What I have is a 5... Is a 5 roller of crit, and then 2 rolls of ER. At best, that new flower will roll 6 rolls of crit with no additional rolls. Which is like... maybe a minor upgrade? But it's not a big one, and it's not worth the Mora, man. Hey, that wasn't a double drop. I just got a double drop by luck. Wow. What I hate with the whole freeze thing is that battle pass weapons with crit rate are borderline unusable. I mean, they're only unusable if you go Blizzard Strayer. They won't be unusable with Skirk set. But also, Finale of the Deep is kind of really powerful. Like, it has a very useful passive. Plus, it has the same name as her signature artifact set. Sounds too big, I think. Would you go attack Goblet if these leaks are true? I don't think it's damage percent. I think it's like a motion value multiplier, like Navidet's Ascension. I don't know what's the difference. Well, one of them is just damage percent that gets added onto your damage percent. The other one is just multiplied by the number. So it just be times 1.7 damage. If it's damage percent, it's not that bad, actually. Like, 50 damage percent is a lot from 2 to 3 stacks, but it's like, you can work around that. If it's motion value, it's fucking cooked, man. Have you completed Hollow Knight now? I'm not good enough for Hollow Knight. Why are you farming this domain? Because I'm a Versa main now. Alright. Didn't get anything particularly useful. Maybe we'll level the feather. What do my feathers look like right now? I don't have one. Okay. In that case, we can see how this rolls. Crit. Fog. Crit. Fog. I'll take a low roll. Crit. Not Fog. Crit. Not Pog. I'm wasting all my Mora on this, but it's fine. Crit? Okay. Well, that's a good off-piece, I suppose. It's an A roller for EM scalers. But it'll be ass for Skirk. Number 1 Skirk hater gets top 1 Skirk. That would be very funny, yes. Why is that bad for Skirk? Because Skirk is gonna be very heavily pigeonholed into freeze. So EM is pretty bad for her. Wrong button. Why do you not teleport directly into Depot? Because it's not really faster. How's this Kirk situation different from Nilo and Nahida? I mean, it's similar in some ways, I suppose. But at least there was an upside with Nilo, which is that Nilo introduces a new mechanic, right? Like, Bountiful Bloom works differently from Bloom, and it has its own things that potentially make it fun. Right? Whereas with Skirk, it's not any sort of difference in gameplay, it's just number bigger. That's it. I remember when Zajef used to call Nilo ass because of her Bountiful Bloom. Did I ever say that Nilo is bad because she has Bountiful Bloom? Or what the fuck are you trying to say? Since she's bad in single target. Said that her kid is boring and bad. I mean, when I provided context for that, I explained that... Oh. Sorry, I got distracted. That... It's not that I think her kit design... It's not that I think Bountiful Bloom is a bad mechanic. It's that I don't like the restriction on it. And I think it would be a better mechanic if the restriction wasn't there. But the Bountiful Bloom itself is a cool mechanic. Skirk has the same restrictions, but without the payoff of a cool mechanic. So it's just way worse. What's wrong with restrictions? Restrictions as a way to balance things in general is fine. Restrictions on team building in a gacha game is just fucking scummy and shitty. Was the restriction bad or acceptable with Chevy? I think it's a bit different with Chevy. Like, there's still some bullshit with it, but when it comes to Shabars, it's a very... I think it's something that behaves very differently by default, because when you look at how to make a good Shabars team, if you don't have specific new support, or specific 5-star supports, it doesn't matter, right? The reason why I don't like team building restrictions in characters' kits that are like explicit is because it makes the characters pretty much worthless unless you also have another character and they don't work as a standalone. But if you can have access to those other characters guaranteed without having to go out of your way to get them, then that isn't really anywhere near as much of a problem. There's still potentially an issue in terms of team flexibility, but it's an inherently very different problem, right? The reason why I think it was a big deal for Nilo is because Nilo was released very early into Sumeru. There weren't a lot of Dendro characters available. And a lot of the Dendro characters we had were pretty bad, which meant that the difference between if you had Nahida and if you didn't was massive. Alhaitham somewhat reduced that, but like, it's still kind of a problem. Because there's just not enough Dendro units that are meant to work with Nilo teams, right? She's just reverse Neuvillette, she'll be fine with 2 stacks. No. Because here's the thing, right? Like, you need to understand, okay? The reason why Neuvillette's passive works for him rather than against him is because by default, you do not want to have 4 different elements on your party, especially with Neuvillette. The character that has by far the best synergy with Neuvillette is Farina, and Farina outright prevents you from getting the last stack. What that means is that his passive, rather than being something that enlarges, widens the difference between his best team and his alternatives, does the exact opposite. It takes those suboptimal teams, it takes those teams for people who don't have Farina, and it brings them a bit closer to the Farina teams. Right? If Skirk was a character who ended up with perfect, or okay, let's say technically that's still possible. Let's say Skirk ends up with no Icity on her attack. She can react literally all of her damage. Then maybe the passive doesn't work as a like big problem because her kit is better for melt and her passive reduces the gap between the melt teams and the other teams, right? That's not how it's gonna be. You and I both know that. But like, that's the reason why Neuvillette's passive isn't a problem to me. And Skirk's passive is. Does that make sense? Why Skirk Kid is better for Mel? Oh, it's not. I was saying her passive wouldn't be a problem if that were the case. Right? Just like I don't think this passive for Neuvillette is a problem because his kit and the surrounding supports that we have that work with him incentivize teams that do not get all the stacks. Which means that this passive serves as a way to reduce the gap between his optimal teams and his suboptimal teams. If they release a character that acts the same way as Farina for Neuvillette, would that change your opinion? Maybe, but like not necessarily. Like, you need to understand, okay? If you wanted to design a character that is not Hydro or Cryo and that is so synergistic with Skirk that it's still part of Skirk's best team, you would need them to make them. You would need to make them so fucking incredibly broken because you'd also be losing out on Escoffier. And Escoffier is also broken. And also incentivizes that passive. Hey Zajef, as a new player, I'm really confused on why Child seems to be locked to International. Would you mind explaining why his best team hasn't changed at all since Inazuma? Basically, Child's numbers aren't that good. Right? When you look at the amount of damage that he can do, right? You just bring Farina so I can fucking... Alright, usually you swap into him, and then you E. 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe. At most. Either 5 to 6, either 5 or 6 and 2 Cs. Right? If you want to be able to have rotations that flow into one another. And Tussie, yes sir. And you're not on the last rotation. Right? His E initial hit, N1, N2, C Riptide, and then Q, right? So his E initial hit is 122, N1, 71.4, N2, 76.5, C, 110.6 plus 132.2, Riptide, 111. And if you do 6, if you, let's say you do 5 for now, and Q is 643. So this is the base amount of motion value that he does on a kit that has pretty much no stat steroids whatsoever. Right? Let's compare him to fucking Risley. Alright? Why not? Risley with 3 N5C. So, Child, full combo, motion value, around 3,200. Risley, who's a character who's not particularly strong, has noticeably more motion value even without his burst. And that's without counting potential rebuke. That's without counting his self-stat buffs. That's without counting the fact that his artifact set is better than Child's. Why 5.01? Because it's 3, but I didn't include the E motion value multiplier on the base here, so I just put it here instead. And that's without accounting for the fact that Risley benefits a lot more from reactions than Child does, because he can actually properly get melt if he wants. Basically, even when you compare him to a carry that isn't considered all that powerful, that one that's considered pretty average, Child's just base numbers are laughable. What that means is that his best teams are just never going to be teams that focus on maximizing his damage. And instead, his best teams are going to be the ones where you take full advantage of the synergies that his kit provides to help him take advantage of your rest of your team's damage, while also getting some damage from him as an extra, right? And the main reason why Child's best team hasn't really changed in a long time is because they haven't released a character that synergizes with Child better than Xiangling does. Is it possible on Verissa to smash buttons so much you end up with low plunges? I haven't seen that. Maybe, but I don't think so. Oh yeah, I mean, if you're just jumping with Shan Yun, yeah, you can, obviously. But I assume you meant from your skill or your charge attack. They could, yeah. I don't think it's something they necessarily need to do, because I don't think that a character just scaling with a different stat matters all that much in terms of how interesting their design is. But it's not something that would be necessarily bad. It's just somewhat unimpactful, I think. Can we get a more interesting skirk design? This one sucks. I agree, man. I'm actually kind of curious. With Escoffier's release, is Child's best team still going to be international? Or is Freeze Child just going to be better now? Freeze Child's probably going to be better, right? Oh boy. I heckin' love Escoffier. I heckin' love Skirk. This game is so cooked, man. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. Gotcha game moment? Yeah. Yeah, I know. I don't want to play freeze. I don't pull. Don't mind others enjoying them. Buddy, this isn't how that's not how it works, man. Do you think that if I pretend like freeze doesn't exist, Hoyo isn't going to create bosses that pretty much explicitly tell you if you're not playing freeze against me, I'm invulnerable? Have you seen the fucking Secret Source Automaton number 2? Hmm? This fucking enemy that has 380% resistances that you need to hit with cryo very often to bring his resistances to a normal amount? Huh? Listen, okay? If this wasn't how the game worked, sure, I could understand your sentiment, okay? But it is, alright? It is how it works, so fuck you! So fuck you, honestly. Man. Cooked. But yeah. That thing I looked at yesterday, like this, right? When I was looking at, I was pretending like skirk. Like this is skirk, right? I was just looking at what the team DPS would look like based on skirk numbers, right? And if she, I was assuming, let's say she's about as good as Ayaka. If you don't have Escoffier and you use Shilonen instead, the team does 50% of the DPS. If you use Charlotte, it does 60% of the DPS. Even if she is better than Ayaka, 65%. You might even be able to reach 70% with Charlotte of Escoffier. It's cooked, man. Without Escoffier, she loses to Ayato Wheelchair? Yeah, pretty much. The gap isn't just a gap, it's a fucking cliff? Yeah. It's a fucking cliff. It's because if you look at a team that is like mono freeze, right? If you look at a mono freeze team with Farina and a healer for Farina, you don't really have a lot of options. You kind of have to use Charlotte or Kokomi, but that's not going to be better. And then even if your last slot is one that's focused on doing some personal damage, right? If Skirk needs all 4 teammates to get all her stacks, and she gets a 1.2 multiplier with 2 stacks and a 1.7 with 3 stacks, she loses 30% of her personal damage from Escoffier being there. She loses another... maybe 20-ish% of her damage from having TTDS instead of having the res shred from Escoffier. So she basically ends up doing about half damage, just personal damage from you just not owning Escoffier, and then you also lose Escoffier's damage. And these characters also do less damage because you don't have the shred anymore. Wait, no, sorry, I'm Cornge. You don't lose the stack in a team like this, right? But yeah, so in a team like this, you lose like 20% of your damage, and you lose the shred for these characters. And in a team like this, you lose even more damage, and you... because you lose the stack. Right? And you also still have less shred. It's just, dude, it's fucking cooked, man. It's just so goddamn cooked. Is that the same difference as using Rosaria and Seed Lally from Awika? No, it's bigger. It's a bigger difference than Rosaria versus Seedlally. But yeah, it's just so... I really fucking hope I'm misunderstanding how it works, because otherwise we are... Like, it's so fucking Jover, man. Let's pray the passive counts her as a Krog character, yeah. We can pray for that. Rage. 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 If she does count herself, we might be saved. I mean, listen, if she counts herself, maybe Melt is good, and if Melt is good, this is a really good fucking feather. So I hope so. I certainly hope so, man. My, that would be nice. What's Yuemia's Ascension stat? Is it crit rate or crit damage? It's crit rate, right? Crit rate. What do my stats look like on the new set so far? I haven't leveled that yet, right? This one might roll better. I kind of want to roll it, but oh well. I think first I'll level this one. Wait, never mind. I'm blind. I have this. Right. Oh, okay. I have a 4-piece. EM on every piece cooked? I know, man. Actually, it's only a 1-piece. What do you mean? I probably could go crit rate circlet then. Oh, I forgot I had that, dude. What the fuck? Wait, that's an insane piece. My god, I forgot that existed, dude. I haven't seen that piece in years. It's been sitting on my Albedo for so long. Yeah. So without the crit rate ascension, we're at... What? It's plus 19, right? We're at 56. We're basically at about 70 with Cryo Resonance. It's not awful. I mean, she might have crit rate ascension too, though. Dites-nous qui sans oser responsable. Dites-nous qui. Ah. Other than Skirk, Nevilet, Ayaka, will Escoffier be played with anyone else? I mean, yeah, Risley, Ganyu, fucking Child, Ayato. Pretty much every Cryo and Hydro carry. Other than Molani. Even Molani, honestly. It's that cooked, man. Even Molani. She'll be played in teams that don't have a dedicated carry, like Yelan, right? Yelan Mono Hydro is gonna use her instead of, like, Shiloden. Do we just record the pre-release today? You guys want to just do that? Escoffier pre-release day. There's not going to be any changes in V5, right? Lord of the Rings duration pre-release. It won't be that long. Like, she's in a lot of teams, but she does the same thing in all those teams. I didn't reach. Zooming with the Limey is so addictive? Yeah, it is. Just make another video if there is. True. The Just favorite character is officially Eon San, and keep in mind these are edited down. On stream, bro was probably yapping for 6 hours total, I guess. I can confirm that pre-release took like 4 hours and 30 minutes on stream. Holy. Alright. Alright, chat. Let's fucking get to it, chat. I hope you're ready. Everyone say hi to YouTube. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. Hi. To the Escoffier pre-release analysis, aka the beginning of the downfall of Genshin balance and meta. Boy, is this cooked. We are going to have a lot to say about this character. Oh yeah. There is a lot to say. Anyways, but yeah, so let's just get right into it. As usual for the pre-release stuff, everything is subject to change. I'm recording this a bit earlier than usual, but I won't post it any earlier. If there's minor changes in between when I'm recording this and when I post it, it'll be added through editors added work. Get to work, bozos. If it's major changes, I'll just re-record the whole thing though, so don't worry about that. But anyways, let's just get right into it. Escoffier is a cryo polearm 5-star character. Her base stats are surprisingly high. I think I already said that in the first impressions, but base HP, a bit over 13,000. Base defense, 732. This is really high for an off-fielder. And I don't really know why. Honestly, I don't get it. I don't understand what the point of giving her high defensive stats is, but I mean, cool, I guess. Anyways, base attack, 347, a bit on the higher side, but as usual, when it comes to the attack by itself doesn't really mean anything until it's contextualized by the multipliers. Crit rate ascension is a little annoying. Because she's a cryo character, and as we're going to see later, she wants to be played in freeze teams. It's very, very easy for you to overcap on crit, right? Starting at 24.2 crit rate, if you play with cryo resonance, which you will in pretty much every freeze team, or at least most of them, that's another 15% crit rate. So you're starting baseline at 39. If you're using a crit rate weapon like Deathmatch, that's another 36.8. Baseline 76. That means you can't use Blizzard Trigger anymore. Because if you do, oh no, baseline 116 crit rate. That's a problem. And so it's gonna somewhat change the builds that you're gonna want to use on her, but it won't be that big of a difference, so it's not the end of the world. Anyways, let's get right into the talents. Normal attacks, there's not much to say about it, but the first thing we have to talk about is not the skill or the burst, it's the passive. The first passive doesn't really matter. After using burst, you heal a little bit. It just makes her burst heal more. Her burst already heals, so... But we'll get into that when we talk about the burst. The second passive, though, the Ascension 4 passive, is the big one. When there are 1, 2, 3, or 4 Hydro or Cryo characters in the party, Escoffier will decrease the Hydro resistance and Cryo resistance of any opponents hit by her skill or her burst by 5, 10, 15, 55%. Let me repeat that. 55%. One more time. 55%. Now you might be thinking, 55% is a lot, but she forces you to only play Hydro or Cryo characters, and the most potent shredders we have are Vivi and Chilonen. So you're losing out on the shred, and you can gain it back with her. It's not that big of a deal, right? Like, it's a reason to play her, but it's not that impactful, right? And honestly, by itself, you're right. It's not that impactful by itself. The thing is, this is only the first thing she does. So, now let's take a look at her elemental skill. Low temperature cooking. Behold the true meaning of cooking! Escoffier will demonstrate different cooking techniques when you tap or hold this skill, but rest assured, each of them is Fontaine's pride and joy. Doesn't Neuvillette call Melusines the pride of Fontaine? Do you guys think that there's Melusines in Escoffier's cooking? We know how racist people from Fontaine are in this game. So, I feel like I wouldn't put it past them. Anyways, moving on. Is this going in the video? Yes. Moving on. Tap activates her all-spectrum multi-use cooking mech in its cold storage mode and deals AoE cryo damage to nearby opponents. And what that does is it follows the current active character and fires frosty parfaits at nearby opponents at intervals, dealing AoE cryo damage. And when she uses her skill, it does an Arca hit. The hold doesn't matter. It's an overworld thing. You don't care about the hold. So, in other words, when you use her skill, it deals a bit of damage and it spawns a thing that does damage over time. It does damage every second, and the motion value is 204. Now, let's contextualize that with attacks from other off-fielders of different elements. So let's talk about Emily, let's talk about Fischl, let's talk about Yai, let's talk about Changling. So, Emily hits every, every 1.5 second, I think? It's every 1.5 second, right? I guess we can talk about Chiori too. But nah. It's not like we need to talk about all of them. I think it's 1.5, but I'll double check because I'm unsure now. Yeah, it's every 1.5 second. Okay. So, Emily. So, motion value and interval. Motion value per second. Emily's like off-field damage in burning is 142.8 times 2 every 1.5 second. Now, you also get some hits from the Ascension passive on Emily. So technically it's a bit more than that. Yai, 161.2 every second. Fischl, 151 every second, without counting the Ascension passive or the C6, but actually, no, sorry. It's 178. I forgot the constellations. Shangling, 224, and it's not there forever, but you can get an average of, let's say, 12 hits. It can be more or less depending on what you're fighting and how you're positioning, but let's say 12 hits. Well, let's say 14 hits. Okay. I'm an idiot. Anyways. Escoffier hits 204 every second. Which, just in terms of base motion value, is competitive, if not better than, pretty much all of the off-fielders we currently have. Now, the other outfielders all have distinct advantages outside of that, right? Emily has some additional damage coming from her Ascension passive, so it's a little bit higher than this. Yai Fischl has her Ascension passive and has some additional damage from C6, and can get some additional damage from Aggravate as well. Shanling can Vape, or her burst application is used to enable another character's reaction. And so just comparing the motion values to one another doesn't necessarily correspond to the damage they're doing. But it's a good way to get an idea for how much you're getting. Escoffier is doing a bit more, and the enemies that she's hitting are getting shredded by herself. What that means is that when you just slot her in a team, you have to put in no extra work, assuming you fulfill the condition of her passive, and you get off-field personal damage that's on the same level as what you get from other off-field damage dealers, like Emily, like Fischl, but on a character that is also providing you with shred for your team. But that's not all. Finally, we have the burst. Scoring cuts. Displaying her exceptional knife skills, Escoffier deals AoE cryo damage and restores HP to all nearby party members based on her attack. Motion value of it is actually pretty decent. 1,000 motion value is pretty big. It's not that big of a deal because you don't want to melt it, because you don't want her to be played in a melt team generally. But just in terms of the motion values on the hit, Child's burst at the same talent level, the melee burst is 789. Who else has... I mean, fuck. Mawika, right, is 756 plus like 500, so it's like 1,200, 1,300. Escoffier is 1,000. Now, obviously, she doesn't have as many self-stat steroids as Mawika does, but I just want to emphasize that her burst actually can hit pretty hard. And unlike a lot of the other healers, she has really good damage, which means that you actively want to be building her for damage, so that burst is going to be hitting pretty hard. On top of that, her burst also heals, so you'll often want to use the burst because it's the healing from your team. The amount of healing, right? 295% attack plus 2193. We can compare it to the amount of healing you get from Jean, right? And it's a bit less than the initial healing you get from Jean, right? But Jean generally provides you with way more healing than you actually need. How much is the burst healing from Escoffier, right? So, in order to figure that out, we need to figure out how much attack she's going to have. Healing bonus, motion value, flat, and total healing. So, her base attack, 347. Plus the weapon. If you're looking at the lower range of healing you're gonna get, which we can start with, let's say Deathmatch. Deathmatch is a low base attack weapon that is focused on damage. Attack percent, you get Sands, you get Deathmatch passive, you get, let's say, 20-ish% from substats. You can get TOM, you can get Noblesse. You won't necessarily get both. Let's say you get one of them. You get TOM on Farina or some shit. You can actually end up using Attack Goblet very often. If you're not using Shenhe on your team, you do. But for now, let's look at their lower range. So no TOM, no attack goblet. Without any healing bonus. Her motion value 292.5. The flat healing 2193. Your total healing on the initial from the burst is at the very, very lower bound, gonna be around 7,700. If you're looking at what you'll get in the best case scenarios, let's say you have her on her signature, which is 608 base attack. It's 24 plus 32, so 56% attack. You got TOM, you got Noblesse, you got Attack Goblet. And you're playing with Farina, you've already consumed a bit of HP from Farina skill. So you got a little bit of fanfare from that. So you get 5% healing bonus. It's gonna be upwards of like 12, maybe even 13k. That's from that's the AoE healing from pressing the burst button. After that, though, you also get healing every second for 9 seconds. For 138.24% of her attack. That's the initial hit. And then the healing over time. This times 138.24% times 1 plus healing bonus. Or actually, the healing over time has fanfare from Farina. Here it's just gonna be 0. So each take is around 2,500 in the worst case scenario. And in the best case scenario, it's gonna be like, each take is gonna be upwards of like 6k. These takes are single target though, they're only for the active character. What that means is that she won't necessarily full heal your team with a burst button. She will full heal most attack scaling characters, or at least close to it. If they're at 50% HP from Farina. But the HP scaling characters, like Farina herself, won't be fully healed by it. But you have a lot of healing for your active character, so you'll also be able to proc Farina's passive quite often. Basically, she heals a lot. Her single instance AoE healing from the burst is a little bit low compared to the other AoE healers, but it's not anywhere close to bad, it's just a bit lower. And then her healing over time is actually pretty good. So, this is a character that functions as a pretty big buffer for your whole team, right? She shreds cryo and hydro resistance, and she only shreds them a lot if you're only using hydro and cryo characters. And because she shreds both, it means that it's effectively a team-wide buff, and a pretty significant one at that. She deals personal damage, and quite a bit of it. And she can fulfill the defensive utility slot in your team, on top of enabling Farina, who is a Hydro character. So, yeah. Honestly, this character is kind of cooked balance-wise. Alright, it's. Escoffier is not the strongest character they've ever released. But she does so many things so well that I'm not really... I don't know how to feel about it. It just feels like she has too much. Now, just yesterday, we got our first very vague skirk leaks that seem like they're actually real. And if they are true, it's even more cooked. So if you want to avoid leaks relating to skirk specifically, here's your warning about that. Because I'm going to talk about skirk for a little bit, because you kind of have to. Now, the leaks we've had for skirk are still very vague and unclear. But let's quickly talk about them. Stick Severance effect. When Hydro characters in the party deal Hydro damage or Cryo characters deal Cryo damage, Skirk gains 1 stack of Stick Severance. And then she gains more damage based on the stacks. At 1 stack 10%, 2 stacks 20%, 3 stacks 70%. Now, even if it does exactly what it says it does, there's still some ambiguity in terms of how exactly it's going to work. 1, is this going to be additional damage percent? Like a damage bonus? Or will this be an actual damage multiplier like Nevilette's Ascension passive? That's the first thing. And the second thing, will she be able to give herself 1 stack? Personally, I think that based on the way that they decided to describe it, the most likely way it's going to work is a multiplier like Nevilette's Ascension passive, and she cannot get a stack from herself. Because the stack from herself would be trivial to get. You get it all the time, so there wouldn't be a point for it to be included. If you could max it with only 2 additional characters, I think it would make more sense for it to be 2 stacks and she can't gain 1 herself than 3 stacks and she can gain 1 herself. I think it just wouldn't make any sense otherwise. And so for now, that's what I'm gonna go off of. Assuming that is the case, what that means is that her base motion value, right? If she's the only character that's Cryo or Hydro, if there's +1, and then +2, and then +3. This is still not confirmed, so take it with a massive grain of salt. But if this is true, it's very impactful for people who are considering getting Escoffier for Skirk. Because it effectively means that she loses out on 30% of her damage just from not playing a mono freeze team. Using Shilonen, using Kazuha, -1 stack, minus 30% of your damage. The thing is, Shilonen also has something similar to it. And so, or sorry, Escoffier also has something similar to this. Which means that if this is true and this is how it works, not only is her base motion value going to be 30% lower if you don't have Escoffier, but also Escoffier's damage is disappearing if you're using Shilonen or Kazuha, right? And the buffs they provide are pretty similar to the buffs Escoffier provide. Actually, you wouldn't even be able to use Kazuha because Kazuha doesn't provide you the healing you need for Arena. So Shilonen. Or Jean, I guess. Which means that your team DPS using Shilonen or Jean instead of Escoffier in a skirk team, assuming this is indeed how it works, would be about half. Half of what it would be with Escoffier. For context, an Ayato team deals more than half of a Maoika team's damage. If you're looking at optimal Maoika teams and optimal Ayato teams, once Escoffier comes out at least. Which means that even if she was if Skirk turns out to be as good as Maoika, and this is indeed how it works, she'll be worse than Ayato if you don't have Escoffier. That's a lot. That's a very big difference. If you don't have Citlali for Maoika, you can still use Rosaria, and while it is worse, it's very playable. If this is indeed how it works, Skirk will be borderline unplayable without Escoffier. If you were to try to use, instead of Shilonen, just a character that still fulfills the passive for Skirk, you'd have to use someone like Charlotte, and you'd lose your shred altogether. It seems like it'll be a bit better than using Shilonen for Skirk, but it'll still be like 30-40% worse than using Escoffier. All of this to say, if you're someone who really wants to go for Skirk, as of right now, with the very early leaks we have, I think it's the first time ever that I would say you kind of have to get Escoffier for Skirk to work. Again, it's not entirely confirmed, and it could get changed, or that it could just I could have just misunderstood how it works. But it's not looking too hot. If you want to know more, though, by the time I post my first impressions on Escoffier, when the patch drops, we will have much more reliable Skirk leaks, so keep an eye out for that. Anyways, we can move on from Skirk stuff now, because honestly, I've been thinking about that for the past like day, and I've been despairing. Yeah. It's not a good sign for Genshin's meta if this is the way they want to design carries in the future, where like not having the specific 5-star support that enables them makes their team fucking do half the damage. I really hope that's not how they're gonna fucking go about it. My god. Anyways, but yeah, let's just get into all the usual pre-release default stuff where I talk about weapons, artifact, sets, artifact, stats, and teams. So first, weapons. Because Skirk is a damage-focused character, not just a character that's on the team for their buffs, there's a lot of weapons to talk about. We can talk about her signature, obviously. Symphonist of Sense. Why is it called that? It's the fork. So we can talk about fork. We can talk about Homa. We can talk about we can talk about so many of them. Goodness. Skyward Spine, Jadewing Spear, Scarlet Sands, Calamity Queller, we could even talk about Arlecchino's sig, but like at that point it's just a default stat sig, like whatever. Other than that, we can talk about Blackcliff, we can talk about Deathmatch, we can talk about Favalence, we can talk about we don't really want to talk about the catch. We can talk about Missive Windspear. We can talk about Drill. Prospector's Drill. We can talk about Mountain Bracing Bolt. We can talk about Torch. I think that's it. There's a lot to talk about. I didn't include engulfing. See. So. But before we talk about any of them, let's look at her ER requirements. So, her burst costs 60. So let's talk about how much ER you need on a few different teams. We're going to look at the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is going to be 3 cryo units, a lot of energy generation. Let's take a look at Ayaka, Shenhe, Escoffier, Farina. So, in a team like that, she can catch her own particles. She generates 4 particles on skill cast. And you're not really batterying into her. So the rest of the particles are not caught by her. 3 particles from each Shenhe E, 4.5 average from each Ayaka E. Farina, maybe you catch one of Farina's particles on Escoffier. Farina's on Fav. Escoffier probably isn't. And in a team like this, your ER requirements are at around 120, even if she's not on Fav. If the only character on Fav on the team is Farina. If Shenhe is on Fav on top of that, 114. Basically, ER requirements pretty trivial to get to in a team like this. What about the worst case scenario? What would the worst case scenario be? The thing is, because she's so heavily incentivized to be played in freeze teams, the worst case scenario for her like base intended position won't be that bad. But because she has pretty good damage and healing, even without fulfilling her team building quote-unquote requirements, you might end up seeing her outside of freeze teams. So let's take a look at what if you're doing a Mawika team where she's the one enabling your Maoika to melt. Right? She's your all-field cryo application for Maoika. With like Bennett, Shilona, and Maoika. Which is probably going to be the worst case scenario that, or close to the worst case scenario. So no additional cryo particles being generated. She doesn't catch particles from anyone else. You get 4 particles from Shilona and Skill, 2.25 from Bennett, 5 from Maoika. And by default, Maoika or Shilona is on Fav, but that's your only Fav. So if she herself is not on Fav, your requirements at around 242 if you want to burst every rotation. And honestly, I expect burst every rotation to be necessary as a part of your setup in a Maoika team. I don't think you'll be able to apply a cryo aura to the enemy without your burst. I think your pyro is going to be too tenacious without the burst. So the burst would be necessary. If she is on Fav, your requirement goes down to 195, which is basically the Fav substat plus an ER sans. Or just a lot of ER substats. Average case scenario is going to be... I guess we can take a look at Risley. In a Risley team, where you do double Hydro, double Cryo with Yelan, Farina, Escoffier. Risley's particle generation depends on how many rebukes he gets, which is kind of cringe, but oh well. By default, he gets 4 particles? Or 5? Is it 4 or 5? I forgot. I'm not sure if 5 is doable, but let's assume 5 for now. It's not like it's that big of a deal. In a team like this, you would only get 1 Yelan E. And you get about 5 particles, maybe 6 from Arena. And this is a team where you could consider not having Fav on Arena or Yelan. You got double Hydro, so and you got Shred for your Hydro damage. So in a case like that, your requirements could go upwards of 200 if she's not on Fav. If you put a Fav on her, and go down to 160-ish. And so, in the best case scenario, in teams where you generate a lot of cryo particles, she can pretty much trivially reach her ER requirements. In the worst case scenario, you'll need Fav and maybe ER sense on top of that. And in the average case scenario, it's generally either Fav or an ER sense. But you might be able to get away with a weapon that gives you ER that isn't Fav, but that gives you something else instead. So, now that we've talked a bit about her ER requirements, let's talk about all those weapon options. First is her signature, Symphonist of Sense, the Fork. And honestly, this weapon is kind of an interesting one. New best in slot for Chevaliers dropped. True. So, mid-base attack, 608, crit damage substat. Passive, attack is increased by 12, while you're off field, attack increased by an additional 12. And after healing, attack increased by 32%, both on the character wearing this weapon and the character who got healed by them. In other words, on an off-field healer like Escoffier, 56% attack to yourself, and 32% attack to your carry. It's obviously going to be her best in slot. It doesn't give you any energy, which means that if you are using this, there are some teams where you'll need to go ER sense. But it's giving you enough of a buff to your carry to make it better than Fav for them. And obviously, it's also going to be better personal damage. So even if you go ER sense, it's still better. Then you've got all the like damage stat sticks. You got Homa, good 5-star stat stick. Skyward Spine is gonna be surprisingly okay-ish because it gives you ER. So on teams where you need the ER, it's just gonna be a nice weapon. Fine if you need ER. But it's not going to be all that amazing. I'll talk about it a little more when I talk about the 4-star options, because generally if you're considering Spine, it's because you don't have a 5-star stat stick that you want to put on her. And so you're considering between Spine and the 4-star stat sticks. Jadewing Spear, fine, I guess. You can think of Jadewing Spear as pretty interchangeable with Deathmatch. It has much higher base attack, but the passive is a lot worse. And so it's pretty much about as good as Deathmatch. The damage is very similar, but you get more healing because your attack will be higher. And you get lower crit rate, which might make it more doable for you to reach a good crit ratio. Because she has crit rate ascension and she's a freeze character. Hey, thank you for the raid, Agro. We're currently recording Escafie pre-release. Welcome, raiders. Anyways, Zajef Scarlet Sands. You don't want to build the M on her, so it's just a stat stick. It's an okay stat stick. But it becomes even harder not to overcap your crit rate on that. Calamity Queller is actually pretty reasonable as a 5-star stat stick. Good 5-star stat stick. It's pretty similar to Homa. But you get better healing. Engulfing, kind of similar to Skyward Spine. A bit better than Skyward Spine, but it's only good if you need ER. And then you've got the 4-star options. So Blackcliff is an okay option. It's an okay stat stick if you don't have any other options. Deathmatch is your default 4-star stat stick. Let me just double check something. So this is deathmatch. I want to actually check the other 4-star statistics and how far behind they are. Missive Wind Spear, 510. 41.3. Right. Next. I guess drill. Yeah, drill is kind of scuffed because you only get the bonuses from it on the second rotation. You could QE, even if you QE. I don't know if you get the thing properly. Plus, it's not full uptime either. Yeah. It's only 10 seconds uptime. Yeah. You have Mountain Bracing Bolt. Is 565. Alright. Okay. But yeah. Favlands, we've already talked about how it's potentially her best in slot outside of signature. In teams where you need high ER. As a general rule, if the Favlands is actually reducing the ER requirements of the rest of your team, and it does not lead you to having more ER than you actually need, Favlands will be her best 4-star option, even if you could potentially reach your ER requirements on other weapons. But because her personal damage is quite high, if you're playing her with bad carries, sometimes the other 4-stars are still competitive with Favlands, even if your ER requirements would be easier to reach with Favlands. Good if you need ER. Missive Wind Spear. Is effectively just an attack percent statistic. It gives you 24% attack on the passive, and it's an attack substat weapon. It's an okay free-to-play option if you don't have Deathmatch. Because there aren't any craftable polearms that are particularly good. You kind of just accept it, and you go Missive Wind Spear if you don't have anything good. Prospector's Drill is fine. It's another stat stick. That one is weapon banner exclusive. The biggest problem with Prospector's Drill is that the effect only lasts for 10 seconds, and Escafier's skill does not snapshot, which means you only get the drill effect. You only get the stat bonuses from the drill passive for 10 out of the 20 seconds duration of your skill. So it's only about half uptime. Because of that, even R5 drill isn't better than deathmatch. However, if you are a free-to-play player who doesn't get battle pass and you ended up getting drill because you went for a character's signature at some point, it's still something you can consider, arguably above Missive Wind Spear. So it's an okay, it's a decent 4-star stat stick. Mountain Bracing Bolt, similar to Drill, is a weapon banner exclusive weapon. It has ER substat. If you're using it on a team where you don't need this ER substat, it tends to be worse than Deathmatch still. But in teams where you do need the ER, it can actually be better if you have it at high refine than Deathmatch. But not by much. So it's also just a decent 4-star stat stick. And finally, Torch, right? The most recent event weapon. Tamayura Tei no Ohanashi. Torch. Torch is okay. It's the same stat line as the Missive Winds, or the Mountain Bracing Bolt. It gives you 40% attack when you use your skill, but much like the Prospector's Drill, it's only 10 seconds uptime out of 20. So it's only half uptime, so it's the equivalent of only getting 20% attack. It's alright, but it's not amazing. But it's in teams where you need the ER, it's actually a pretty reasonable option for a free-to-play weapon. Default free-to-play. One nice thing, I suppose, is that you will burst right after using your skill, so at least for the burst, you'll have this. Which means that your healing is going to be pretty good with this weapon. So, if I were to order them from best to worst... Oh, also, I said I'd talk a little bit more about Spine. Spine is effectively a little bit better than Torch. If you're looking at the amount of stats that you're going to get with Torch... 565... 20%. Versus Scoured Spine. 8% crit rate, so it's... Scoured Spine is outright just better than Torch. It gives you a little bit more attack than Torch. It's a similar amount of attack to what you'll have with Torch while the passive is up. It gives you a bit more ER than Torch, and it gives you a bit of crit rate on the passive. Scoured Spine, effectively, you can think of it as a slightly better version of your free-to-play option. If you ended up getting the Scoured Spine on the weapon banner at some point, or on the standard banner at some point, you can think of it as like a shiny craftable weapon. But yeah, it'll be worse damage than Deathmatch, but it honestly won't be that much worse than Deathmatch, and you get a bit of ER. So it's a pretty nice default option to go to if you have it. What will you use? Personally, I unfortunately don't have a build where I don't overcap with Deathmatch, which means that for me, I'm actually better off using Jadewing Spear. Jadewing Spear and Deathmatch are pretty similar by default. But obviously, if I'm over 100 crit on Deathmatch and I'm not over 100 crit on Jadewing Spear, then Jadewing Spear will be better. But yeah, if I were to order them from best to worst, Fork is obviously going to be her best one. Next is going to depend a little, but honestly, Homa, Calamity Queller, and Engulfing are all pretty solid. Then is the 5-star stat stakes that just only give you stats. So, Staff Scarlet Sands, or that don't have a particularly useful passive. So Staff Scarlet Sands, Jadewing Spear, and then Deathmatch to some extent as well. Skyward Spine, Favalance, then probably Mountain Bracing Bolt, then probably Torch, then probably Blacklift, then Missive Wind Spear. I don't think I'll include Drill at all, honestly. Probably something like this, but like I said, depending on the ER requirements, this ranking might change a bit. But yeah. One interesting thing about her signature weapon, her burst gives the buff to the whole team for 3 seconds because it heals the whole team. And then after that, you only give the buff to the active character. Well, what that means is that if you use her, if you're using her in an Ayaka team with Shenhe, right, when you do Freena skill burst, Shenhe skill burst, Escoffier skill burst, Ayaka combo, or maybe you use Shenhe's skill a little earlier. I'm not entirely sure when the right time to use it is, but whatever. When you swap to Ayaka, you still have the attack buff on Shenhe, because the 3 seconds of attack buff from the AoE healing on the burst will still be there. And you might be able to get all your quills out before that's gone, depending on your ping. And then, when you swap back to Shenhe to reactivate your skill on her, you'll get a tick of healing on her again, which means that you will still have that attack buff on Shenhe. So for most, if not all, of your quills consumed by your carry, Shenhe is getting buffed by this, not just your carry. Which is kind of an interesting thing. Okay. Anyways, let's move on to artifact sets. Ons will do them later, remind me. So, she is a skill damage character, which means that her best in slot is generally going to be 4-piece Golden Troop. As it turns out, 70 damage percent is a large number. It's pretty good. Now, that being said, it's not her only option. Obviously, she's a character who's played in freeze teams, so Blizzard's Trigger will also be good. The biggest problem with Blizzard's Trigger is that the biggest effect that Escoffier has in teams is that it makes those freeze teams a lot stronger, and arguably strong enough that you now have a good reason to play freeze teams, even in content that is not freezable. It will make your freeze teams a lot less dog shit against bosses and against unfreezable enemies. Which means that very often, you will be against enemies that are not freezable. And when you're against enemies that are not freezable, Blizzard Strayer is quite a bit worse than Golden Troop. Let's take Sig, honestly. Let's just 08, 56. This is 6.1. Okay. This is Golden Troop. Blizzard Strayer 40%, Blizzard Strayer 20%. Technically, I didn't include the burst damage here, so this isn't exactly it. But your skill actually does less damage, even on Blizzard Strayer. Or even on freezable enemy. I'm gonna sneeze. Yeah, 70 damage percent is just a very big number, honestly. I guess you might end up using Cryo Goblet here, so it's a bit better like that, yeah. Actually, in this specific scenario, Cryo Goblet might be better already. Yeah. Okay, but yeah. So, the thing with Blizzard Strayer is that it can be slightly better than Golden Troop against freezable enemies, but only slightly. And it's a lot worse against unfreezable enemies. So I think you're generally better off just going Golden Troop. On top of that, Blizzard Strayer makes it really hard not to overcap on crit rate. Because of that, I think as a general rule, you mostly want to use her on Golden Troop. But Blizzard Strayer is still very usable. Other than that, you can also consider support sets on her. You can consider Noblesse. You can consider Tenacity. The thing is, she does enough damage that she's almost always better off on a damage set. She isn't like Farina, whose damage varies a very large amount based on the team she's on. I mean, technically she is, right? Technically, if you're using her in that fucking Maoika team in Melt, you're probably better off on a support set, because you're gonna have to build so much ER. Your offensive stats will take a big hit, and at that point, even if you put her on a damage but set, she doesn't do that much. So you're getting more value out of a support set. But 4-piece Noblesse. 4-piece TOM. These are things you can consider if you end up playing her in teams where you need a lot of ER on her and she doesn't do that much damage. You can do 4-piece Cinder City, I guess, for the same reason. But because she's not from Natlan, obviously it's not ideal. And you can also do 2-piece, but it's also pretty not exactly what you're looking for. Next is artifact stats. So she's gonna have the default of attack, cryo, crit, but you will also be able to go attack, crit. Reason for that is because her best set is Golden Troop. Golden Troop is 70 damage percent. Because she's a healer who wants to be played with Hydro characters, you're going to use her with Farina very often, and Farina gives a lot of damage percent. What that means is that if you don't have a lot of external attack sources, alright, let's say you're looking at Deathmatch, you don't have TOM on your team, you don't have Noblesse on your team, you have Golden Troop, you have Farina. What the heck? So, cryo percent versus attack percent. Your attack gauntlet can be about as good. If you're looking at Skyward Spine, it can even be better. As personally, I'm going to be on Jadewing Spear. I can look at that too. Could be better there as well. Attack percent Goblet can be about as good, if not even slightly better. On top of that, attack Goblet means more attack. And that doesn't just translate to damage for her. Attack also means more healing. Damage percent affects her damage, but it won't affect her healing. So with an attack Goblet, in teams where attack does as much for her damage as cryo, you'll get more healing, so it'll just be outright better. The reason why it's not my default go-to is because there are quite a few teams that get external buffs that reduce the value of attack Goblet. Mainly, if you're using Shenhe, Cryo Goblet is significantly better than attack Goblet. You can also technically consider ER Sands, either with ER attack crit or ER cryo crit. But generally, you don't want to have to put her on an ER Sands. And finally, we have teams. And boy, do we have a lot to say about teams. So, let me move the cam to the other side. Yeah. She is going to have quite a few teams. Because, honestly, it's less about the team synergy and more about the fact that she by herself is so powerful that you can kind of end up using her with anyone. Right now, if you look at the GC Sim database and you look at some of the weaker carries, you're going to notice a trend. Let's say Wanderer, for example, of some of the highest DPS C0 teams often just being whatever that character is, plus Shilona and Yelan Farina. Right? Shilona and Yelan Farina. Ito. That's C2, C6. Lunge doesn't count. Shilona and Yelan Farina. Who else can we look at? Yoimiya, I suppose. Highest C0. There's a lot of C6 Sims, huh? Oh! Chivalry's a little higher. That's Pog. But this is not far behind. Shilona and Yelan Farina. Yeah, Ayato, I'm kind of curious what the highest sim is for C0. No. No. No, you can't be doing this. Is this a gumming team? Oh boy. Anyways, relatively high up, Shilon and Yelan Farina. Anyway, Shilon and Yelan Farina is a core that's pretty powerful. That you can kind of put on any relatively bad carry and make it work. Here's the thing, alright? If you're doing Shilon and Yelan Farina, Shilon herself doesn't do any damage, so then you have Yelan and Farina. So Yelan, Farina. Base HP, HP percent, flat HP, total HP, damage percent, crit value, crit multiplier, effective HP, motion value, damage. 2. Start with Yelan. Base HP, 14,450, HP percent. 18 from her passive, 46.6 from whatever. The Sands. 20-ish from substats, 25 from residence. Let's say for now that's it. Flat HP about 5k. Damage percent. She'll have 46.6 from Goblet. Let's say 150 ER. Or do we just look at 5? Nah. We'll also get a 2E Yelan with relatively low ER. It's probably what you want. Anyways, Farina, average, let's say 230, 240. And then Ilona and Cinder City. Good value, 98. 4 plus 2 plus 20 times 6.6 plus 31.2 times 2 if she's on Slingshot. Effective HP. Motion value 38.4 times 2 plus 12.42 plus 8.28 times 3 times 14, let's say. Alright, and then Farina. $15,307 HP percent. You don't get this, but you do get 46.6 additional from the Goblet. Damage percent. We don't have Emblem. That's good. That's good. We get 28 from the effect. We don't get Goblet. We get 70 from Golden Troop. Great value. We don't get this, but instead we get Festering. Multiplier, effective HP, motion value. 1.4 times 5.49 times 13 plus 10.13 times 5 plus 14.09 times 4 plus 13.4 damage from Festering. Yes, thank you. I forgot. Plus 19.4. So, in a team where you have Shilonen, Yelan, Farina, and you're doing rotations so that you reduce your Yelan's ER requirements, and you use 2 E's on her per rotation, you get to basically wheelchair 50k DPS from those 2 characters. And so even if your carry's not doing that much, you still have that 50k DPS from the 2 of them. Ish. What happens if instead of Shilonen you use Escoffier? So, you lose the Shilonen, so you lose the damage percent from Cinder City. And instead of 36% tread, if your carry is not cryo or hydro, you'll get 15% tread. You're now only getting 40k DPS from Yelan and Farina. But now you're also getting Escoffier's damage. How much is that? Hmm. 347. Let's say she's on... For now, let's just assume she's on 5, right? Team that doesn't have a lot of energy generation for Escoffier. Let's put her on 5. Maybe even 5 ER Sands. Right? So no attack Sands. Let's go ER attack crit. So attack circle or attack goblet. 20% from subs-ish. Flat attack 350. Damage percent, golden troop. Arena. Is that it with this? Yeah. Crit value. Crit multiplier. Effective attack. Motion value. 85.7 plus 57.1 plus 204 times 19 plus 1007.8. And if you end up using Escoffier instead of Shilonen, you get about the same amount of damage, even if your Escoffier is built with an ER Sands, and your carry is not Cryo or Hydro. On top of that, you now have Freeze on your team, so it'll be a lot more comfortable to play. The point I'm trying to get at here is that Escoffier Yelan Farina is going to be a new form of wheelchair that can be used to carry your bad carries. And if you are using it with a Hydro or Cryo carry instead of a carry of a different element, they're going to be wheelchairing over 60k DPS. If it's a Cryo one, you're probably also reducing your Escoffier ER requirements by quite a bit. So you can at least get attack Sands instead of ER Sands. So it's more like 65k. Basically, I won't be able to talk about every single team you'll be able to make with Escoffier because Escoffier's existence is going to effectively be included in any carries team as a wheelchair option, at the very least. So I won't be talking about Escoffier Yoimiya. I won't be talking about Escoffier Wanderer. Because, like, those are going to be good teams. But, like, man. You're not pulling Escoffier for Wanderer, you know? So let's just pretend like that doesn't exist for now. And instead, we're going to talk about teams where Escoffier actually makes a lot of sense. So, mainly, for now, the Hydro and Cryo carries, and later, if you're using her as a reaction enabler for characters that want a Cryo support. So, first is going to be Ayaka. Ayaka is a character who gets, by far, the biggest upgrade from Escoffier. The reason for that is because right now, I don't have Ayaka, so I'll use fucking Chongyun as a placeholder. Okay. Right now, the best teams for Ayaka are Ayaka, Farina, and then like Shenhe Shilonen or Charlotte Kazuha or some form of fucking combination like that. But they all have a problem, right? Which is the fact that Ayaka doesn't have access to good healers, which means that if you're playing Farina, you're playing worse units. And if you're playing better units, you're not playing Farina. I also don't have Shenhe, so I'll use fucking Chi-Chi as a placeholder. Wow. Cool. Escoffier, not only is she providing you with a bigger buff than a character like Shilonen, but she's also a healer that's actually good at stacking fanfare. And she has a lot of personal damage, especially in a team with Shenhe. Because keep in mind, Shenhe's buff is not only to one character. Shenhe gives the quills to the whole team. Now, right now, because your only Shredder options are Cryo or Animo and Geo, the quills don't matter too much outside of what they give to Ayaka. Technically, you can get quills consumed on Kazuha Cryo Infusion, but that's not a lot of damage because he's not building a lot of damage percent in crit. He's building fully M. When you're using Escoffier in this slot instead, Escoffier actually gets to consume those quills. Now, default Ayaka rotations use 2 Shenhe E's, because you use Shenhe's E as part of your setup, and then after Ayaka's burst, you swap back to Shenhe, use her skill again, to get additional 5 quills consumed by Ayaka's still ongoing burst. And so you end up getting 10 quills consumed by Ayaka. Well, you're also gonna get 10 quills consumed by Escoffier, not just Ayaka. And the thing is, right now, Shenhe only really synergizes with Ayaka. She has pretty poor synergy with the other cryo units. Which means that the unit that gets the most value out of Escoffier is very clearly going to be Ayaka. Because not only do you get all the default stuff that you get from Escoffier, the personal damage, the shred, the healing, but you also get a character that can take the best possible advantage of the additional buffs you get from Shenhe. Right? If you give the damage from the quills, if you count that as Shenhe's damage, right? Base attack, attack percent, flat attack, total attack, damage percent, Shenhe, damage percent, Ayaka, damage percent, Escoffier. Oh, actually, fuck that. I'm not doing that. Whatever. I should have a sheet open with Escoffier calcs, yeah. Yeah. Alright. So... But yeah, the quills by themselves increase Ayaka's damage by like 20 to 25%. But you get about the same amount of damage from quills from Escoffier proccing the quills. That's an additional 20 to 25% of Ayaka's damage that you're gaining. Pretty big deal, as it turns out. From calcs I've looked at, it seems like the Ayaka teams with Escoffier are like around 50% better than the Ayaka teams without her. Basically, the Ayaka teams with Escoffier are so much better than the current Ayaka teams that Ayaka is actually going to be a reasonably decent carry against bosses. So, Ayaka. Massive upgrade. The next carry I want to talk about, which I think is the second most relevant, maybe even the most relevant, depending on the way you look at it, when it comes to Escoffier, is Neuvillette. Now, Neuvillette does not gain anywhere as much from Escoffier as Ayaka does. However, Neuvillette is a lot better to begin with. 100k DPS equals decent. The thing is, it's not 100k. It's 100k against freezable enemies. It's less against unfreezable enemies. And on top of that, just because it's a boss does not mean it won't move. And if it dodges the fucking burst by moving, it's dog shit. So there's still some nuance to it. Like, it's not a great team against bosses. Anyways. So, next is Neuvillette. Now, when it comes to Neuvillette, you might be thinking, why Neuvillette? Why would you want to play Neuvillette? Neuvillette's passive encourages you to play different elements. It encourages you to play multiple reactions. Well, yes and no. So here's the thing, okay? And I kind of want to talk about this, especially with the fucking skirk leaks, but anyways. Neuvillette's passive is a very interesting one. I think that the design intention behind Neuvillette's passive is not to give you a strong incentive to play him with non-hydro units. I think the design incentive behind this passive is to make it so that he has a smaller gap between his best teams and his suboptimal ones. The reason for that is because, very clearly, the character that's designed to work the best with him by far is Furina. But Furina being on your team, by default, locks you out of that last stack. Obviously, it's also there to sell the C1, but for now, let's not talk about that. The fact that his best teammate, like, just synergy-wise, by far is Furina, makes it so that, effectively, if you're using him with Furina, his motion value is lower than if you're using him with other characters. Furina is still the best teammate for him because her synergy is just that good. But the fact that his motion value is higher when you're not using Furina means that the gap between the Furina teams and the other teams is smaller. So he ends up being, or having, more team versatility because of that. Well, as it turns out, the same thing can apply to Escoffier. Right? Escoffier forces you to only have 2 elements, so it would lock him out of the second stack too. But she's good enough that it's still good. As it turns out. Yeah, Escoffier's damage is good enough to make up for the damage you lose on Neuvillette. On top of that, a nice upside that isn't mentioned that much is that Escoffier's buff does not need to be refreshed. When you're playing what is currently the best Neuvillette teams, which is this one, this is generally what your rotations look like. You start with a Neuvillette E, then you Farina EQ. No, I'm an idiot, sorry, you don't Q. Sorry, orange. Sorry. You start with a Neuvillette E, then you Farina E, then you Shilonen E, optional Q, Kazuha E, optional Q, Farina, burst, Neuvillette charge attack, skill charge attack, burst, and then refresh your buffs because otherwise they expire. And then you do another 2 charge attacks. But as you can see, looking at my skill cooldown, my rotation is a decent amount longer than 24 seconds. The fact that you have to go refresh the buffs effectively locks you into longer rotations because refreshing the buffs and then the time that it takes to do 2 charge attacks on top of that charge attack you did after the second skill, it means you end up with around 26, 27, 28 second rotations. If you didn't have to go refresh your buffs, I get to use my skill almost right after the cooldown is back. Which means that your rotation is instead going to be 24 or 25 seconds. So even if your damage were to be a little bit lower, that doesn't necessarily mean your DPS is lower. Because it happens faster. Also, the fact that you don't need to refresh means that, right now, the reason why you use Neuvillette's burst after the second charge attack is because if you use it before, your VV ends up running out in the middle of your second charge attack. But if you do, like, actual quick rotations properly, you actually end up losing a little bit of time waiting for your skill. It's a bit annoying here because I have to dodge his incoming attack. But let me just break his shield. Which means if I were able to do this, I actually would be able to do exactly 24-second rotations. Because again, right, Neuvillette's skill cooldown is 12 seconds. Which means that if you do 2 skills, 4 charge attacks, you're locked into at least 24 seconds on your rotations. But yeah. And with Escoffier, that's something you will be able to do. Now, if you have Sacrificial Jade for Neuvillette, it won't be ideal. Because you need to swap out of Neuvillette in order to keep that passive. On top of that, you don't really have a great third Hydro, which means that you likely are going to want to use a second Cryo instead. Let's say Charlotte is Escoffier. And if you use a second Cryo, you get Cryo Resonance, and with Sag Jade, you'll be Omega Overcap. Sag Jade, Cryo Resonance, fucking Crit Ascension, and But I shall say your crit rate is at 130% at that point. Like you don't want that. Anyways, maybe that doesn't have crit rate essential. Oh, does he not? Am I corned? I'm corned, aren't I? Sorry, my bad, my bad. But still, Marie-Jose, Sag Jade, Cry Resonance. It's a lot of crit. Do you even keep good uptime on Cry Resonance? Yeah, you do. Anyways, all in all, this is going to be Nevilette's best team once Escoffier comes out. But obviously, it uses Citlali, which is also part of Malika's best team. And if you don't have Citlali available, I don't think this is necessarily going to be, if you're using Rosario, for example, I don't think it's necessarily going to be an upgrade over his current teams, but it'll be pretty close to a side grade. And you get Freeze as a nice little additional utility that makes it even easier to play the team. And you don't have to go refresh buffs, which also makes it easier to play. And basically, because of those things, Escoffier will be an upgrade to Neuvillette. And thank God, because he certainly needed the buff. Dog shit unit, true. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how little uptime they end up with on their VV on Neuvillette. When I look at more casual players play Neuvillette, they don't tend to refresh the VV. And so they end up with like half uptime on it. And the upgrade that Escoffier provides to those teams is going to be even more noticeable because you get the buff the whole time. And it's a similar thing with Chilonen. Neuvillette is actually one of the carries that has long enough rotations for Chilonen's buff to run out. Right? If you do... Right, you can see how long is left for Chilonen's buff by looking at whether or not we have the circle under us. Right? If you don't go refresh the buffs, it's already gone before the third charge attack. The circle's already gone. It's not just Kazuha, it's also Chilonen. But Escoffier won't have that issue. Now, one thing that's important to mention is that the second stack does a lot less for you than the third stack does, right? If you go from 2 to 1 stacks, you're doing 88% of the damage you were doing. If you go from 3 to 2, it's 78%. In other words, if you get the additional stack from his Constellation 1, going from 3 to 2 stacks by using an Escoffier team instead of 2 to 1 will be a bigger loss to his damage. Now, from what I've seen, I still think it's a minor upgrade to his teams even at C1. But it's a lot closer. It's quite a bit closer. All in all, though, I would say that if you're just looking for Neuvillette teams, she's not a major upgrade if you already have Kazuha Chilonen. And on top of that, if your other side is Maoika, it's not really an upgrade at all, because your other side wants Sitlali, so you won't be able to do Escaffier Sitlali. But still, it's something that can be worth considering. Next is gonna be pretty much all the other Cryo and Hydro carries. They all get upgrades from Escaffier. Like, every single one of them. Except maybe Molani. But Molani's still something we need to talk about anyways. So, first, let's talk about Risley. Now, Risley doesn't have nearly as good of a synergy with Shenhe. You won't be able to get 2 skills on Shenhe with him, which means her ER requirements will be higher, and you get less quills. That's why you generally do a hold E on Shenhe instead of a tap E. You get 7 quills instead of 10. But that's also 7 quills instead of 10 on Escaffier if you're using her there. Because of that, I expect the Yelan teams to be better than the Shenhe teams with Risley Escaffier. But it is a pretty sizable upgrade to his current freeze teams. And it's going to make his freeze teams competitive, if not slightly better than his melt teams. So it is a pretty big upgrade, too. The only sad thing is that the damage distribution in a Risley team with Escaffier, Elon, Farina is gonna be sad. Risley's gonna be doing about a quarter of your team's DPS. So if what you're looking for is big numbers on Risley, that's not the team for you. Anyways, other than that, we have Ganyu. With Ganyu, I think it's gonna be a very small upgrade. Ganyu doesn't have the best synergy with Shenhe either, because she doesn't line up that well with 20-second rotations that use 2 Shenhe skills. And right now, her best teams are not the freeze teams, they're the melt teams. And Ganyu has bad synergy with Yelan, unlike Risley. So your best options for freeze Ganyu are going to be Escaffier, Farina, Ganyu, +1, and that +1, because she doesn't have great synergy with Shenhe or with Yelan, is going to be worse. Either you're playing a character with better synergy, that's not as good, or you're playing a character with worse synergy, like Shenhe and Yelan, and you lose out because the synergy isn't as good. But it's still gonna be a small upgrade. Because in the worst case scenario, you just wheelchair with 65k DPS and do fucking normal attack Ganyu, or on-field Yelan with a Ganyu burst. Right? If you're using Ganyu, you get Cryo Resonance, which is an additional 15 crit rate for your whole team, which makes your wheelchair damage 72k instead of 65k. And that's competitive with Ganyu's current teams, even without looking at Ganyu's damage. And you don't have to do charge shots, which is a massive upgrade. Next, let's talk about Ayato. It's a big upgrade to Ayato's teams as well. very similar reason. You'd wheelchair this shit. You wheelchair that shit. With Ayato, you can either do something similar to Neuvillette and do double Hydro. But again, I'm going to keep using Charlotte as a placeholder. With Citlali. With Citlali to increase your Farina and your Ayato's damage. Or you can just give up on Ayato altogether. Use Yelan instead. And have it be the wheelchair that we talked about many times already. And this is going to be a pretty sizable upgrade to his current teams. Other than that, who else is left as like current carries that require Hydro? Kokomi, I suppose. With Kokomi, it is going to be an upgrade, but a bit of a smaller one. Because when it comes to Kokomi mono Hydro teams, because Kokomi is a healer, you don't benefit much from the fact that Escoffier is a healer. But despite the redundancy of the healing, Escoffier will still become, in like a Kokomi freeze team, better than a mono Hydro team, just replacing your Shredder with Escoffier. Using Escoffier instead of Chillona or Kazuha will just be better. But it'll be a small upgrade. Child. Yeah, it's an upgrade. Like, what do you want me to say? Again, the wheelchair by itself out damages International, so fucking just slap Child in there and it works. We can also talk about the fucking cryo carries that aren't cryo carries. So let's talk about Ayla. So Ayla's best team right now is between Hyper Bloom and Pyro Plunge. And Escoffier Wheelchair is better than both of those. It's also obviously going to be better than physical Ayla teams. But obviously, if you're an Ayla player, if you like her, you probably don't want to play her in a team where she's getting wheelchaired. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. It just, yeah. Same thing for Fremine. Like, ugh, man. Then we can talk about teams with no dedicated carries. So if you do something like this, or like this, where you don't really have any character that needs to be unfielded. If you compare them to, or even something like this, right? If you compare them to doing something like this, it'll be a pretty big upgrade, actually. So I guess Mono Hydro, right? And how Mono Hydro freeze with Escoffier as the only cryo character will be an upgrade over Mono Hydro teams. Mualani. Here's the thing, okay? Mualani's a character from Natlan that's a catalyst, which means you can give her TDDS and you can give her Cinder City. And if you play this wheelchair team with Cinder City and with TTDS for Escoffier, it's even better. Now, is it actually better than Molani's carry teams? Maybe not, but it'll be a lot more comfortable to play. So it won't be that bad. And then on top of that, TTDS isn't even that bad of a weapon for Molani's personal damage, because she's an HP scaler, so she doesn't care about the low base attack from a 3-star weapon, and TTDS is an HP substat. So there's that, I suppose. It works, but it won't necessarily be an upgrade. I'll just say it works. Next, we can talk about characters that can use Escoffier not in a wheelchair team, just as an off-field damage dealer and or cryo applicator. So, Mawika. I'm not entirely sure what the rotations are going to be, but I do expect it to be possible to use Escoffier as the source of cryo application for Mawika Melt in a solo cryo team. So, it'll probably be okay. It won't be much better than the current cryo options because her ER requirements will be pretty high, so her personal damage will be relatively low. But it'll work at the very least. Other than that, she will actually work on a Kniech team. Kniech teams need to have a Burning Aura on enemies, which can be maintained by Kniech's Dendro application. And if you also have an off-field Pyro, like Mawika, or something like this, your last slot, a lot of people use Emily. Some people use Yansan. Escoffier will be a viable last slot here. She'll get some melts, and she won't yoink the Burning Aura. I don't think it'll necessarily be better, but it will be at the very least viable. Is that Deepwood Escoffier? I'm not sure what's better between Deepwood Escoffier and Deepwood Mawika. I think you might be able to get a forward melt on Mawika's burst if you use Escoffier, and if you do, it's probably going to be an upgrade, but I'm not entirely sure if Escoffier can actually wipe the Burning Aura with an EQ. Definitely not through Mawika's skill, but if you don't Mawika's skill, maybe. Anyways. Is 2U on burst? Yeah, but 2U doesn't wipe burning. 2U Electro does, but not 2U Cryo. Anyways. At the very least, it'll work. Other than that, Chaska teams, it's actually going to be pretty good. If you look at current Chaska teams, people often want to use Farina. But if you use Farina, your healer options are quite limited to pretty much either Bennett or Chevaliers. Right? And this is one of the popular Tosca teams, or maybe something like this, right? Well, because Escoffier is a healer, you will actually be able to use Escoffier in this slot here. And it'll increase Farina's personal damage. But she also has pretty good personal damage of her own. And then you get pretty good freeze uptime. And Freeze Chaska is actually going to become one of Chaska's better teams. Will it necessarily be the best team for her? No. Fucking Bennett Mawika Zilali will not be removed. But it will at least be one of the pretty good ones. VV Chaska Supremacy. Other than that, you have, I suppose, Arlecchino, who could also use... Okay. Who could also use Escoffier as the off-field cryo in a melt team. It'll work. it'll be like Rosaria. The speed of application for Escoffier is she applies cryo every other hit and it hits every second. So it's the exact same speed as Rosaria, but it lasts for longer. Which means anything that Rosaria enables for reactions, Escoffier will enable as well. In an Arlecchino team, you're not really... most of the time you're not using Farina. So you don't need to use Escoffier's burst necessarily. And if you don't need to use the burst, then she doesn't have ER requirements, so you can build her full damage. You just break the shield real quick. With Rosaria, things can end up getting a little scuffed depending on your setup. Also, I have Scoured Spine, which increases my attack speed. So let me fucking change that. Bro. Yeah, so if you QE, it's scuffed as all hell. So you gotta EQ. And if you EQ, you can only melt the first few attacks. Oh my... How the fuck did that not register as a charge attack? My bad. Yeah. So you only get either 3 or 4 melts with Rosaria, so it'll be the same with fucking, what's her name? Escoffier. Technically, you can get a little more if you're just patient and you wait a little. Yeah. You can end up getting 6 melts. So you'll probably be able to do that with Escoffier as well. Doesn't Citlali have the same app as Rosaria? Not exactly. She has the same app after the initial stuff, but there is the Spirit Skull Vessel explosion from her burst happens in between the first and the second off-field hit from her skill. So instead of an application every 2 seconds, it's an application every 2 seconds with an extra application at the start between the first and the second. And that's why Arlecchino can get 6 melts with Citlali without having to delay anything. Right, that explosion, that was the cryo application from the Spirit Skull Vessel. I kind of fucked that up there, though. Did a little too fast. Anyways, but yeah, so it's the same frequency of application as Rosaria, so it'll also work for Arlecchino. Now, she doesn't provide a buff to crit rate like Rosaria does, but she has personal damage, so it'll be pretty similar to using Rosaria. It'll be at least pretty decent. Like it'll be good. You can obviously also just play double cryo, right? You can play her in a Gaming team. It'll be good. You can play her in a Navia team. I suppose we can mention Navia. She can be the healer for your team instead of Bennett if you don't have Bennett. Or if you don't have Bennett available, I mean. And you want to use Navia Farina. But yeah, she works pretty much fucking everywhere. I'm not gonna talk about every single carry in the game, right? But she works with pretty much all of them. I suppose, yeah, I should also talk about Hu Tao. Honestly, with Hu Tao, it's a little weird. Against unfreezable enemies, she might yoink some of your application. Against freezable enemies, it'll probably be pretty good. We can just compare it to Rosaria without looking at healing stuff. Right? Alright, you end up missing like 1 or 2 melts over your rotation on a freezable enemy, but it's generally not the melts that happen on charge attacks, it's generally the normal attack melts that you miss. Or melts or vapes, sorry. And so, for most of the reactions, it just either doesn't change anything or transforms vapes into melts. So it'll be pretty good, at the very least. Will it be better than using Xianyun or Shilonen? I don't think so. I think it's going to be viable, but that's it. Then triple cryo is just a little too sus with Hu Tao. Right, even if you use like Kea that has faster application, I think the biggest problem is that applying cryo onto an enemy that already has a cryo aura doesn't help. And most of the time, your cryo applications are not happening exactly in between each pyro hit, right? Right, and we end up losing Aura pretty early. I don't know why the fuck she's on Skyward Spine, but that's fine. We end up losing our Cryo Aura relatively early, and once we lose it, we don't get it back, because we play too much Pyro. Yeah, in order for it to work, you need to consistently apply Cryo in between the normal attack that applies Pyro and the charge attack. Which is kind of fucking sus. Yeah, and then there's also Blood Blossom that can fuck you over. There's also that, yeah. Anyways, it's not for like actual melt Hu Tao, but for vape melt Hu Tao, it'll be pretty good. But yeah, honestly, the rest is pretty straightforward. You'll be able to use it in a Xiao team. You'll be able to use it in just, yeah, pretty much anywhere. All in all, Izumi is going to be a very versatile character, but also not, right? Like, she's going to be powerful enough that even outside of her niche, she'll be good. But obviously, she'll be a lot better in her niche. It's just... I really don't like her design in the sense that I never liked, like, character restrictions. things that actively restrict the teams you can do. I like that at least she still works outside of teams with that fulfill the restrictions, but which like at least there's that going for her. Unlike fucking Nilo, for example, where the Vape Nilo teams are just complete garbage. But I don't know how to feel about the fact that her teams for the crowd carries are a lot better than their other teams. Right? Like, it's not just that Escoffier is like giving you restrictions to get the best out of her kit. It's also that Ayaka's teams outside of Escoffier are just so much worse than with her. It's kind of like if they released Nilo and Nahida, but Hyper Bloom didn't exist. And the only team where you used Nahida was with Nilo. Or with fucking Fridge. Or Burgeon. And that's just kind of sad to me. And that's without getting into how much worse it is for Skirk. All of that being said, I also think it's really unfortunate that it doesn't change any of the freeze mechanics. I have been hoping for some improvements to freeze teams for a while, but I think that just giving a shredder like Chevaleur's to freeze teams is the most boring way to go about it. In the same way that I think Chevaleur's is a pretty boring unit. If I were tasked with designing a character for that reinvigorates freeze teams, I would have made it a character that changes the way the freeze reaction works, kind of like Nilo changes the way Bloom works. Where instead of triggering Frozen with Hydro and Cryo, you trigger Chilled. And instead of freezing the enemy, it just slows them down. So it works against bosses. And when you use a blunt attack on a chilled enemy, it still triggers Shatter, but it does not remove the chilled aura. And basically, I think that it would have been really cool for Freeze to take the direction of actually incentivizing its reaction mechanics, actually giving you a reward for triggering Shatter. Right? If Shatter didn't remove Frozen, it would be a lot better, because you could just have Freeze and then use a blunt a character with blunt normal attacks and trigger Shatter over and over, and that would be really cool. And I think that just having a freeze carry or a freeze support that shreds resistances and that's it is the most boring way they could have gone about it. I'm really disappointed because of that. Anyways, it is what it is. As usual for the pre-release stuff, keep in mind that it's always subject to change. So keep an eye out for the first day, or the day one first impressions and the post-release. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good YouTube stuff. Don't spend money in this shit game, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, YouTube. Yeah, now we gotta do constellations that I forgot, as usual. So. And I guess there's also another thing I want to add. When it comes to the cryo carry, I've only talked about freeze so far, but some of you might have wondered about mono cryo with like 4 cryo units. The biggest problem with that is just when it comes to Ayaka, Ayaka's burst without freeze just won't hit the enemy. But in general, it's just Farina does so much for those teams, especially if you already have a healer from the fact you have Escoffier, that the mono cryo teams will just be noticeably worse. But they will work. They'll be fine. You'll be able to do that. Anyways, constellations. C1. When 4 party members are Hydro or Cryo, all nearby party members will have their Cryo damage, crit damage, increased by 60% after Escoffier uses her skill in burst. So basically, 60 Cryo crit damage for your team. Now, generally, it's pretty easy for you to reach 100 crit rate on phrase teams. And your characters are going to have maybe around 100 and anywhere, depending if they have crit ascension, on whether they have crit ascension or not, depending on whether they're on Blizzard Fire or not. Anywhere between like 150 and 250 crit damage. If you gain 60%, it effectively increases the damage that your team, the cryo damage that your team does by somewhere between 15 and 25%. That's pretty good. Pretty strong C1, but it only works for the cryo characters. So if you're using Escoffier in an Evidette team, and an Ayato team, and a Child team, and a fucking any of those, it will be 20% to your team DPS. It'll be 30% for her own damage, and that's kind of it. But even then, it's still fine. C2. When Escoffier activates her skill, she gains an Icy Quill effect, basically. This is just Shenhe's skill on a constellation, basically. It doesn't work exactly the same way. Instead of this giving quills to each character, she only gets them to herself, right? And it only buffs active party members, and you only get the 5. You don't get 5 per character. You only get the 5. And so basically, when an active party member that is not her deals cryo damage, it consumes one of those pseudo quills that they call cold dish stacks, and it increases the damage by 240% of Escoffier's attack. Now, for comparison, Shenhe's Icy Quills at talent level 10 are 82% of Shenhe's attack. This is 3 times more, but you only get 5 of them. So, generally, that 5 of them is going to be doing about as much as what you get from the quills on Shenhe. Because Shenhe gets 5 quills on herself, Escoffier, and your carry twice. Escoffier gets 5 things that do about 3 times as much as Shenhe's quills, but only once. And also, she'll have less attack than Shenhe does, because you still want to build crit rate and crit damage on her, not just full attack. So technically, it does a bit less than what you get from the quills, but it's still a pretty nice upgrade. C3 is skill talent level. It's the one that matters, obviously. It takes her skill talent motion value, at talent level 10, 216, at talent level 13, 255. So it's an additional 39 motion value. Just pretty decent personal damage increase. C4, Rehab Diet, which I think is the healing effect that happens over time after burst, lasts for 6 more seconds. While it's active, you have a chance to heal more and regenerate energy, and that chance is based on your crit rate. So if you have 100 crit rate, it'll always happen. If it's 50%, it has a 50% chance of happening. Basically, your healing can crit based on your crit rate, and when it does crit, it heals double, and it generates 2 more energy for her. And you can trigger it up to 7 times. Now, because it lasts 6 more seconds, you'll get 15 instances of healing from it, which means that as long as you have 50% crit rate, on average, you'll be able to get all 7 procs of it. and you generally have more than 50% crit rate, especially because she's got crit rate ascension. Basically, this is a 14 energy refund plus a decent amount more healing. This one's okay. It's not that good because honestly, her healing, even without the crit, is already good enough, so it doesn't really matter that much. If there was something that you would want to be able to crit on the healing, it would be the initial healing, because that's AoE. The single target healing is already good enough to overheal your carry anyways. And so it's basically mostly just about the energy, and 14 energy refund is fine, but most likely if you're going for her cons, it's because you're playing her in a cryo carry teams, or in a cryo carry team, and in a cryo carry team, you probably don't need a lot of ER anyways, so this doesn't help that much. So her C4 is pretty bad. C5, burst out levels, pretty bad. And C6, you get a coordinated attack up to 6 times that deals 500% of her attack as damage, so it's 3,000 more motion value from that. With the C3 bonus, her skill is now doing 255 motion value. So it's basically 6 instances of double skill damage. So it's kind of like the equivalent of 12 more skill hits. In a default rotation, you get 20, so it basically increases her damage by like 60-ish%, but it also makes it a lot more front-loaded. Also interesting, her default damage over time is not AoE, it is single target. This is AoE, so it helps her AoE a bit. But I mean, it's a fucking C6, so who cares? All in all, her constellations are pretty good. I'd say that this, like, for a support, she's got, I'd say, better than average constellations individually. The C4 and 5 are pretty worthless, so I think people that aren't planning on going to C6 can ask themselves whether they want to get C1, whether they want to get C2, whether they want to get C3. But then stop there. Like, you definitely don't want to go for C4. Between early constellations and signature weapon, I think the C1 does a little bit more than the signature, but the signature is also best in slot for other characters. So if I could just choose between the two, I'd probably lean more towards the signature. However, we don't know what the banners look like yet. And a pretty important factor when it comes to choosing between the character and the sig is often what's on the banners. But yeah, so all in all, pretty good constellations, but as usual, don't spend money on this shit game. Yeah, alright. Editors will be able to make that fucking work somewhere earlier in the video, and yeah.
Add Astra. Thank you for Add Astra.
Alright. Let editors know. Yeah, I'll do that. Recorded. Escoffier pre-release. Would EM be a useful stat in an Escoffier team? No. Marissa? Man. He's fucking zooming, man. Holy fuck. I love just going places with Marissa. It's so fun. Oh, I didn't manage it. Damn. Running late again. Be faster than Yelan? I think so. Our 3 lost prayers, PPW. True. Fuck. Anyways. Hmm. Oh. Do you think with this movie coming out, Yelan is now quite a bit ahead of Singto? Mainly because her wheelchair team is better than a Hyper Bloom? The old wheelchair? I don't know. Maybe? It's always been okay, buddy. Calm down. Oh boy. Oh wait, I want to watch this. Very unlucky day. Sad face. Holy. Holy.
You literally always thinking of muscles, and I literally don't. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Huge stream for you guys today, and I can't stall, okay? I actually can't stall today. Fido, my brother in Christ, you know me too well. I already have it up. Okay, wait. That's Sino, by the way.
What
now
the fuck? Okay, but I wanna stall. I'm not gonna do the feet duel, but let's do the stall. We stare. Ooh. I think we'll pound. Okay. Let's hmm. No. The E not being last kinda names. No. Um this a word? I feel like it's a word. It's not a word. Never mind. Asken? Is that a word? Ashen! Oh my god. Holy. 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 Alright, 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 alright. Say whether you'll go. RSVP. Fitting game for Chip, Jack, and Betty to play. Poker? Amino? Setup? Romeo? Skits? Venus? Toss. Let's go! 38 seconds. Holy fuck. We made up for yesterday's shameful performance. My god. Is this your record? It's close, but I don't know if it is. Anyways, let's do the Genshin duel. I'm in a good mood now. Is it balls? It's not balls, that's okay. Okay, it's a 1.x character or 2.0. Let's try Zhongli. It's not Leo, so it's probably 2.0. Right? Let's try Yoimiya. Yeah. Yeah. Time for a nap. Oh wow, where did my sunglasses go? Is that Navia? No. Is that... Who else naps and has sunglasses? Shilonen? Yeah. Yeah. Is that Xianyuan? No! That's Dawn! It's not Dawn, I was wrong. I thought that was Dawn. Kind of looked like the whatever. Is that, wait, is that Pyronado? Oh my god. Oh no. Oh no. Chat, I'm an idiot. Ah. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. The Stellaron Hunter. Destruction Stellaron Hunter released long after Bald. When was Firefly released? Long after Bald. Wild grass, berries, butterflies, a cool breeze. When I want fresh air, I like to go out where the plants grow wild and touch the life-filled world with my own hands. That's so... Who do you think you are? Like, actually, who the fuck do you think you are? I really don't know. I think we're losing our streak here, because I have no fucking clue, man. I'll just guess at random.
Wild grass, berries, butterflies, a cool breeze. When I want fresh air, I like to go out where the plants grow wild and touch the life-filled world with my own hands.
I have no fucking clue who this is. Could it be Firefly, maybe? I guess there's not that many characters that sound so upbeat. Maybe it's Hunt March. I'll try Hunt March. Fuck, it was Firefly. No! Whatever. I feel like I should know this, but I'm not sure. What the? Okay, I definitely don't know this. The fuck is that? It's probably a Lofu character because it looks flowy and shit. And I feel like Lofu characters generally have flowy abilities. Superiority of reach. Okay, chat, listen. Okay, for a second there, I thought this said superiority of Reich. And I was like, Adolf? What? Who the fuck is what? What? Anyways, I don't know who this is. Is that Don Hong? I think so, right? Yeah, okay. Man. Okay. Is it a Ben day? Not a Ben day, that's fine. Is it an Ellen day? Not an Ellen day, that's fine. Oh. Alright. Alright, alright. Alright. Can you check my emote redeem? Sure. Transj. What? Why? What makes it funny? We have Gage? What's your excuse this time? I'm transphobic. You got a problem with that, loser?
I know I said
Okay, don't say W Zajef, okay? Stop that. Stop that. That's not funny. If you weren't a first-time chatter, I'd give you the benefit of the doubt that it might be a joke, but right now I'm really unsure, okay? A phobia means a fear you're scared of them? Of course I am, dude. For evil, more fear. They're very powerful, exactly. I haven't met a trans person that wasn't overwhelmingly powerful. You get it.
I wasn't gonna stall, but bro, honestly, let me do the wordle. Something R.
W stands for woke. True!
A, maybe ARF. Aru? Aboba. Aroba. What? What the fuck is aroba? Why did that work? Arrow. Okay. I said arrow. That was easy. All right, we're done stalling. Time to play Genshin. Let's do the global. Best one yet. We'll start with Chad. We love Chad. Mongolia, maybe? Warmer. How about Japan? Warmer. How about SK? Oh, that was easy. All right, nice. You remind me of my favorite resident at the nursing home. What does that mean? Here's the 2024 stall compilation. Wait, what? Is this one day? Climate change. What is the another climate change warning. This is 40 hours long. Is it against labor laws if I force Alan to watch this whole thing for clips? Is that like illegal? No, I won't do that, bro. I won't do that. Why is your username Ziox I stall? It's Ziox is tall. It's not Ziox I stall. Okay, okay. Let me actually lock in, bro. Let me lock in. I'll do the connections. I'll do it. Okay, I'm not gonna stall today, but okay, anyways, I have to stop stalling, bro. I actually have like too much to do. All right, let me move on. I saw a post that said famous bald people, and they put me next to Mike Tyson and Vin Diesel. I'm gonna break something. Okay, are we done stalling? Pull every time you get a good skirk piece. What if every time I get a good chow piece, I remove one article of clothing? Thoughts? Please don't take this out of context. I want to do a drunk driving stream in game. Like it's gonna be a simulator, but I think I could be good at it in game. We're not gonna do it in real life, obviously. But I think like if we play like driving sim with like a wheel in game, dude, I think we could pop off. Dude, it could be good content. Because think about it. Statistically speaking, someone out there is the best at it. You just don't want to do it because it's dangerous, so you shouldn't. But if you do it in game, it's like you can find out without being dangerous, you know? For legal reasons, this stream has to go out. Have you heard of Murphy's Law? That's not true. And we have to disprove it. So when a lot of things go wrong, the next thing you do can't go wrong. That's called gambler's fallacy, but it's not a fallacy. It's actually like a smart-a-see. So because the stock market collapsed, now our artifacts have to be good. Because like we have to be lucky somewhere. So even though we're down, we're gonna get back up, you know? That's how that works. I have to collect crystal flies, by the way. How many crystal flies do I need if I have 6k resin right now? What's it like having so much resin just to not get shit? Yo, fuck. Okay, I need a little bit of crystal flies, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna start farming resin. Have you ever thought of playing other games? Yes, I'm playing Elden Ring this week, maybe. Who knows? Soon. Dude, I think I'm gonna, I actually think like real, this week, maybe. Who knows?
Why is this so funny?
Soon. Dude, I think I'm gonna, I actually think like real talk, I'm gonna build a new PC at home and then ship my current one here. So I have two good setups. Can you guys be honest with me? Anyone who knows PCs, I feel like every graphics card right now is a scam. They're all like overpriced and garbage, but I can't not have one. Should I wait for a 5080 Ti? But that's probably gonna be $1 million, but I don't mind if it's good. 5080 is worse than a 4090. So like actually suck a call. And then 5090 is good, but it's like $1 million plus tariffs, $2 million. Thanks, Obama. So fucking what do I do, bro? I don't know why I said Obama. Sorry. Then get scammed by Nvidia. I will get scammed by Nvidia, and I'll be happy about it. Dude, I'll get an AMD one if they sponsor me. You think they'd sponsor me? You are a brand risk. How am I the brand risk? Oh my god, I'm gonna buy. Dude, the Moan compilation is heavily edited and out of context, and I have reason to believe it's AI generated. Why would I even act like it's real? Okay, maybe we lock in. How many crystal flies do I have? I have 132. Okay, we can send it. Will this be a video? So should we say hi to YouTube frogs? Yes, but like, I'm gonna cut you out because like you specifically that wrote that, you're not in the video. I'm just gonna make sure. Okay, today we're spending a lot of resin. Overall, we're gonna do like over 10K, but today we have 2,000. Why are we doing this? Two reasons. One, and especially for Shao, we want the plunge set for Shao. We want the new best Shao build, okay? Okay. Number two, skirk, baby. So yeah, I have sworn a vow of chastity from Vermilion. Right now, I already have the best Shao possible, and then Genshin said, fuck you in particular, here's a new Shao set, and honestly, I stalled this for so long that like, I actually forgot this set was out, and no one cares. Okay, I'm good now. All right, first pull. Okay. Okay, starting the day off terribly. So how's live chat? Terrible? Okay. I went on a date with a girl and she said it's not gonna work out. Okay, it happens. Okay, it happens, bro.
What?
With a girl and she said it's not gonna work out.
Never mind.
Okay.
I thought that was on the Long Night's Oath set and I was gonna mold. But no, that's...
It happens. Okay, it happens, bro. It happens. I will say, Genshin Impact might not be the best way to make it work out, but I mean, you do. Watch this. Watch this, I feel it. Okay, next run, I feel it. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this feather. Oh my... that is terrible. That is... Bro, if this was attack, it actually could have been good. That's what's nice about Long Night's Oath. Attack is a good goblet. But it doesn't matter because it's defense. But I'll still lock it. Watch this Anemo goblet, by the way. Okay. What happened to streamer's luck? Bro, it doesn't work on artifacts. Like, I don't know if it's just me that's cursed or if it's a whole, like...
Yeah, it's just him that's cursed.
Streamer thing, yeah. But streamer luck on banners, it happens. Streamer luck on artifacts, for me, non-existent. Watch this. Double crit, attack,
Why is this on
defense.
2 times speed?
Okay.
Let me fix it.
Right? Ziox is AI generated? No, I'm not. Can an AI do this? Bleep, glorp. AI can't replicate glorp. Attack with crit damage, you has potential. There's no hydro plunger, right? Skirt pieces. Okay, not a single crit. Maybe it's time to go back to Vermilion. You might be on something. This could be good crit attack when you lock it. Kind of cope, but it is what it is. You can use Vermilion on Veressa? Yes, bro. you can with Farina. I mentioned in my guide, people thought I was sneaking. People thought I snuck it in. No, it's true. Is it better than Marie Chaussee? No, it isn't. But very few things in life are. Mods, okay, you don't have to ban someone for saying try sex. Boom. Boom, double crit. Okay, well, just so we're all aware, by the way, I'm down 600 resin. Just so we're all aware, I don't have one piece. Boom. Wait, double crit. Did you want EM on the set? I mean, what if Skirk is like a melter instead of a freezer? I don't know. Maybe. We're gonna lock the double crit. Sans? I mean, it's low roll, but it's still, I mean, it's still a 4-star. Maybe. We don't know, bro. We don't know. Maybe by the time this is uploaded, you know, but right now, you don't know. We're locking that. Bro, please, I want to build Shao. I'm not angry, okay? It's a good flower. It's really good. But please, like this could be, like, for Shao. Like ER would be good. ER's not good here. Bro, these are both double crit, and they're both for not Shao. Maybe they know that, like, I'll keep going the longer I get unlucky. Like, when I get lucky, maybe I'll be free from my shackles. So they keep me, like, hooked. What about the same one, Sans? That happened before I was a streamer. Well, no, I streamed it, but I was like a new streamer. I didn't curse me yet. It was too early in my career. It was to get me addicted. Like, if I didn't get that one Sans, then maybe I never would have been the man that I am today. I've been chasing that one high for 4 years. Because 4 years ago, I got the best piece on my account. I still haven't replicated it. Best feeling I've ever felt in my life. And guess what? I can't even come close to it. Gambling ad. Okay, don't gamble, kids. But see, that's why I gamble in a fictional video game without even like money. Like, I'm not saying like hold on a banner with money. I'm saying it's an artifact from free resin, bro. Have I spent
Bro thinks we don't know that he fucking refreshes multiple times a day to get to 2,000 resin for his streams. For free, he says.
Mo's on resin? Yes. But do I have to? No. I know we're clearing these domains really fast, so it doesn't feel like it's a lot of resin. It is. What the f is this? I mean, baby? Are you American? Who's asking? It depends who's asking. Are you trying to tariff me? No, they're gonna tariff the Zajef stream, bro. Imagine there's like a resin tax. Every time you spend 20 resin, you lose like 5. Dude, I should Photoshop this to say like 80 resin. Could we get crit damage? Honestly, we're gonna level this. Maybe like why? Because it could get 20 crit rate. Don't talk to me. This could get attack rate, ER could get crit damage. Watch me shoot the tree. Maybe that's the secret, bro. We just Americanized the tree. Watch this. Boom. 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 All right. Chicken jockey. Dude, I'm actually gonna expose this guy. I'm sorry. I really don't leak DMs. Like, I'm a nice person. I don't. But this thing, I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna show a screenshot. Just believe me, okay? This Toronto person, we were gonna play Marvel Rivals. I was playing with friends, and then I was like, yo, get on, bro. He said, nah, man, I have an early day, big day tomorrow. I gotta wake up early. I can't play tonight. I said, respectable, understandable, busy man. I get it. You got a job or whatever. You have to go out. I don't know. Okay, all good. Then I swear to God, can't make this up. The same night, 5 a.m., he sends this in the group chat. Chicken jockey. Bro, I'm not gonna. I better keep my mouth closed before I say something I regret. Yo, I appreciate you, Arisi. It's not that I like your guys' love. It's true that you hate EU lol. I don't hate you. I actually love the Europe and Europeans. I'm nothing against you. The only thing is, sometimes it's just unfortunate that EU viewers are the worst. Okay, no, pause. You guys are great. They're not like, okay, the time zone is bad for me. That's all. It's like, it's hard to stream at a time that's good for EU viewers. That's all. I'm not saying you're bad.
In other words, if someone streams at an EU-friendly time, they're achieving something. I think he's just too shy to say he admires me. I think that's what's going on here.
People, you're probably great. I've been to Europe. I have friends in EU. I speak French. Bonjour, ça va? I speak British. Oi, what's going on, geezers? Unlucky. Play Rival Season 2? Not yet. I want to play it though. Maybe like when I'm back home, we stream it. Honestly, dude, I don't know much about Marvel Rivals lore, but whatever Emma Frost did, I forgive her. Also, apparently, I don't know if it's real, but apparently they made every male character, they like stealth buffed their asses. Every male character's ass is now bigger. No, the clips will be called like Ziox gets lucky for once.
Concept title right now is just very a bad day or bad artifact day. Nice.
Kissy face, all on my phone. Wait, another double crit. Shao flower, this could be good again. V2, real this time. Dude, I'm so brain rotted. I don't find the meme funny, but whenever I see the like wilted flower emoji, it just makes me laugh. Watch it. Funny, but whenever I see the like wilted flower emoji. It just makes me laugh. Watch this. Oh!
I don't get it. Boner. Okay, I get it now.
Okay, I was maybe right. Maybe hypothetically, if this gets crit rate, then my feeling was vindicated. Validated? Exonerated. I don't know. I can't speak English. Is it normal that sometimes I can't count it too? I just get confused. Okay, also, Chevrolet, I know she's already broken, but when you swap into her, she should immediately apply Pyro. Make her a catalyst, because I don't like having to use my burst. How does it feel? He's actually playing a good plunger for once? Bro, fuck. Wait, crit damage? Crit rate substat? Oh, lock it. This could also be good, bro, for someone. What? I mean, it's the skirk set, but I'm happy. Like, maybe Kaibutano used it too. I don't know. This could be really good. Now, you might be like, Zox, energy recharge isn't good on the set. I know. But it's still, I mean, attack and crit damage, you cannot complain. This could be insane. And worst case, it's a good off piece. This could be really good. I've tried lamb testicles once. It wasn't like good, but like I wanted to like have it to say I had it. Stop right there. Okay, sorry. Oh, wait, please don't click the last part. Wait. A Nemo crit ER HP? This could be good, bro. If this gets crit damage, you eat balls, question mark. Bro, stop taking it out of context. I don't. It was one. What the? Bro, if this was not a circlet, like, could you imagine if this was like a feather or a sand? Well, it can't be a sand, but like a flower? These are perfect substats, but it's an EM circlet. Like, what do you want me to do with this? This is like a waste of luck.
100% deserved.
Maybe. This sucks, but it could get crit damage, so I'm locking it. Don't get mad at me. If this is an attack stance with double crit, I promise you this is not a joke. Everyone in chat right now will get a brand new Ferrari. Okay. Listen, okay, I'm not even gonna explain it. My grandma was like, yo, I fried some balls. And I was like, I should just have a bite to say I had it, because it would be funny. That's it. Like, it wasn't even like ball shaped. It was like a nugget. Wait, 4 pieces, bro? One of these has to be good. I'm sorry. One of them has to be good. None of them are good. Bro, okay, I promise you, this is not scripted. We've only gotten skirk pieces. What the hell is happening? I mean, this is good. Bro, I like skirk. I do. And look, bro, how do we keep printing like incredible pieces on the set and none on Long Night's Oath? Dude, this could be insane. Double crit! I know it's low rolls, but double crit could still be good. You never know, okay? We're locking it. It could be good. It can. No. Dude, you know, as a kid, like I was like 10, I was like, I wonder if you have to pay to get a job. Because think about it. You have to like, I was thinking like, what if you have to make money to make money, like spend money to make money, you know? Like, do you have to like, when you're applying to like, at like Walmart, do you have to like pay them up front so that they give you a job so you make money? Now I know that you don't. But like, what if now, like think about it, bro. What if like last stage capitalism, right? Now have to like, in order to get a job, you have to like get a loan to pay to give the employer money to make money. I mean, you do have to pay for school. This could be good. Now, can I get a Shao piece? No. But can I be the best skirk in the world? Yes, I can. Hello? I know you're in the other room, but I don't feel like getting up. Hypothetically, if I ordered a halal shawarma platter, hypothetically, would you hypothetically want one?
You can literally mute yourself on the mic right now, and I can still hear you from across the apartment.
Hypothetically, would you feel like eating a like a chicken lamb shawarma bowl platter thing with like?
Are you getting shawarma?
No, I'm getting a platter. Like it's like I think I got it once. It's like it has like white and like red and like sauce, and then it's like rice and like chicken and lamb and like vegetables.
I mean, if you're getting a platter, you can just have it yourself.
Yeah, but I'm saying, do you also want one? Buy one, get one. Well, it's not, but like for you, it's free. It's like $1 million, but if I mean that's nothing for me. Yo, Jimmy, there's the $2,000. I appreciate it. Thanks for 100 gifted. What's up? Sorry.
Do you not hear yourself like in my mic?
So do you want the? Okay, do you feel like a bowl or something else or nothing?
I don't need a platter right now. I can like have a snack or something. If there's a snack.
Why is this
I don't think
how they're
Lebanese people
ending
do
the
snacks.
video, man? What do you mean? Okay, dude. Chat, what if I go... this has inspired me to go spend some more resin on the domain. This has inspired me. I'm gonna get a good piece. I'm gonna get the piece he was looking for. I'm gonna get it right now. Trust. Lime eater. I kinda like that one. I hope you're ready, chat. I want everyone to hold your breath. Keep holding. Keep holding. We'll level it. Crit. Okay, you can stop holding. Can you analyze whether the point of this video is true or not? What is it? Final tutorial on Star Rail relic manipulation. Of course it's not true. Of course it's not true. Is it the same guy? I think so, yeah. I mean, you gotta respect the grind, man. Right, like, no regard whatsoever for the fact that it makes him look like a complete scammer. Makes multiple videos about it. Like, I can respect, like, doubling, tripling, quadrupling down like that. Who is it harming? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. That's why it's kind of funny. But it's, yeah. Oh well. As a programmer, the way you talked about relic manipulation really fascinates me. Clearly they are not true RNG, but doing tests to figure out pattern was something I never thought about. I will be doing more tests on my own. Thanks a lot. A comment. Yeah. But the way you can just easily know that it's fake is that if it was true, they would fix it. Like, if it was something that was actually true, they would change it. If they use a method of pseudo-RNG that's actually manipulatable and the community finds out about the way to manipulate it, they're gonna change it the next fucking day. Isn't a weapon banner kind of like that too? No. There are ways to manipulate your stuff to get to, like, improve your RNG, but it's not like you're fucking... It's not like, oh yeah, as it turns out, you're more likely to roll crit rate if you fucking do it on a fucking full moon at 11 PM. It's the way that you interact with the system that is explicitly explained in game. Yeah, my 15 CV goblet says otherwise. Dad, did you know that if you subscribe to my channel right before you roll an artifact, it's more likely to roll well? Now, if you roll well after subscribing, it's thanks to me, and if you don't roll well, well, you just got unlucky. It happens. Honestly, the only thing I'm actually curious about with that is whether the person who made that video actually believes it. Because, like, there is no question about whether it's real or not. Obviously, it's not. But I am curious if they actually managed to delude themselves into thinking it is. Like, are they stupid or evil, basically? He full refreshes, so no. Confirmation bias is a hell of a drug, man. It's not something he discovered, it's the Chinese community. The good old, just say it was a Chinese TC finding, that way everyone will believe it instantly. Didn't know it worked for scam artifacts, too. That's crazy. Stores the ancient Chinese texts. Oh. I learned about it from the fucking heavenly demon sect. Okay, so that's how I know it's true. Oh. Oh. I believe the elder Chinese texts. True. Oh. Not gonna lie, I tried the woo. I mean, it's fine if you try it. It's basically like a fucking pull ritual. Like, obviously it doesn't actually change anything, but you get to feel like it does if you want. Like, if you think your luck actually improves...
You called?
from doing this, then you're kind of dumb. But if you do it anyways because you think it's fun, and it's a nice, like, funny superstition, like, okay, have fun with that. Do you guys think I'm gonna die or get stuck? I got stuck. I died. Fuck.
Wait again. Gotta steer clear of
Yeah.
other people.
Kind of crazy she can make these jumps.
Here I go.
Anyways, versus jump is so insane, yeah. And it's really fun to use. Now do that in a new region, we call that exploration, true. True, good point. I think I'm gonna go minus 60. I don't want to do the quest today. I think that's gonna be it for today, actually. Tomorrow we'll talk more about fucking Skirk and how much she pisses me off. Probably. I don't really want to rate